What's been the biggest or some of the biggest challenges of implementing some of this stuff? Again, you wanna be there for the customer and you give to the experience, but I'm sure there's challenges with this. And what have you found?
Yeah, and my problem is I think of a whole lot of things I want to do, but then when it gets down to the reality of it, getting to where the laundromat customer both understands and appreciates what I'm trying to do doesn't always work out. So anyway, so I'm trying to think of. I don't know. Let me think about that one.
Okay.
I know
All right.
that's a slow, but the more I started, I was like, I could go off a bunch of tangents, and I don't want to do that because we don't have. I mean, we don't
Sure.
have four
Yeah.
hours, do we? No,
Yeah, we do not. Very good. Well, Bruce, how about you? What kind of challenges have you kind of run into?
I wouldn't consider it a challenge
Mhm.
necessarily, but an ongoing level of education regarding the ozone system. We
Yeah.
even have smart codes throughout the store with our character and our branding around a smart code. You can just literally hold your phone up and it'll
Mhm.
take you to an ozone video about what it does, how it works, and so on and so forth. So that's an ongoing thing because people, walk right by them or stand in front of it and say, what is this ozone? And you just point at it and you talk with them about it for a few minutes. But I would say the biggest thing in our area, remember, I entered what I'm referring to as the depressed laundry facility area, where there were
Right.
4 stores that were still in 1978, a lot of them using 40-year-old machines. Um, Vending, a 60-pound washer at $3 and 25-cent dry with a dryer that hasn't had the lint screen cleaned in about a month. Bottom line is the customer's spending a lot of money and they don't
Right.
realize it. So our vend prices are higher. They're out of there in
Mhm.
less than an hour. It's much more efficient. The perception of the price on the front of the machine has been the biggest challenge, trying to get them
Mhm.
to understand that they're using a washer that doesn't spin out. They're spending $4 at the dryer. They're there for 2 hours.
Right.
Here, if you just add up the amount of money you spent and really pay attention to how much money you spent there, I'll bet you it's a lot closer than you think.
Yeah.
And I would call that the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Carly, what type of hurdles or roadblocks have you run into as you try to increase amenities for your customers?
Well, one of the things is when you're thinking about amenities and nicer things that you have in the store. So
Mhm.
kind of comparing the cost versus the wear and tear that those customers, especially the kids that we talked about, are going to have on what you've purchased or put in there. But probably one of the bigger hurdles is kind of like Bruce said, is educating the customers
Mhm.
on what they're getting for their money, the quality
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
And probably the largest one over my washers, I mean, they're trying to figure out the technology of the washers and how they work, is my dryers. And because they're used to the older dryers that cook their clothes to be dry. And I say that nicely because I have those dryers at my other store. I can
Right.
smell the difference in my clothes from those
Yeah.
dryers.
Yeah.
So when these dryers work differently, or they didn't realize that you have 4 different heat settings and they dried it on no heat, which is actually an amenity, but they're mad because they waited 40 minutes, didn't pay attention to the machine, and are now
Mhm.
mad at you because their clothes aren't dry. So it's figuring out how to educate the customer. And when your staff, that store is staffed and the staff is busy doing other things and they didn't catch the person at the dryer,
Mhm.
explaining the auto reversing dryers that no, your dry is not done. It's just stopping and it's going to go the opposite direction. So
Right.
teaching them how to load it instead of putting as much clothes possible into that dryer and suffocating it,
Mhm.
splitting it up, and you can spend the same amount of money, but you can save so much time if you load it correctly. So
Mhm.
I guess figuring out how to educate every customer.
Right. Right. That's a full-time job in itself,
Yeah,
certainly.
because
But yeah.
signage does not work.
It doesn't go all the way. Absolutely. No, that's very true.